I recently had a comment come in from a student that was so mind-shifting that we ended up dissecting it inside of one of our paid programs about marketing. Now, the good news is this concept will simplify everything you do in your business and make it a lot easier to stay inspired. The bad news is it might change everything you've learned and all the ways that you've looked at marketing and messaging in your business before. So if you're still up for it, listen to this discussion about how to add more soul inspiration into your marketing. So here are my thoughts on rest. I didn't plan anything. I didn't come up with any notes. I wanted to kind of check in and see what comes to me. So in the context of this statement, you can rest in it. For me, the reason that stood out so much is because it spoke to my soul. And that's why these exercises are bringing up a lot of emotion for a lot of people. It's because it's tapping into something deeper than the realm of intellect that most of us are playing at. And when we tap into that, different words come out of our mouth, different thoughts become aware to us in our head. They're always there, but they become aware to us. And we start to create this channel of creativity and openness and transparency and all these things that come with it. And a lot of times emotions come out because we're tapping in to something. So rest, to me, in the context of this conversation, is about soul. It's about your soul's contract. It's about the reason you were created. It's about what has been put into your DNA. It's about the assignment that you were given. Now, most of us didn't consciously choose. I don't know anybody that consciously chose the lessons through the experiences that led us into personal development. Most of us did not choose those lessons because they were painful lessons. But we needed those lessons in order to learn what we needed to learn to do the work that we wanted to do. So most of us didn't consciously go, you know what, I want to be born into a family where there's not a lot of love there so that I can learn what love really means and I can heal families going forward. I want to almost die when I'm 7 years old so that I can learn the value of life, or I want my brother or sister to die, or I want my parents to get divorced, or I want to choose some level of abuse so that I can learn the lessons that I need to learn and go teach this work. None of us make those choices consciously. If we do, I've never met somebody who did. But I also believe that our souls make those choices because of what we need to learn in order to create the kind of life we want to create. In order to teach what we want to teach, we have to have the lessons, and the lessons only come through adversity. So this idea that you can rest in it has a sense of surrender to me. It has a sense of release, a sense of putting down. It's really a dropping kind of experience. It's like we're creating so much overwhelm and complication and controversy and conflict up at this higher level. And when we drop to the lower level, that's where the beauty is. That's the sacred level. And there's so much less efforting at that level. There's so much less conflict. There's so much less anger, pain, frustration, defense, attack. There's so much less anything hard. You fall into this place where it's like, oh, this is amazing. I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, have had the experience of going underwater, right? Like maybe there's all this turmoil happening and turbulence above the water. There could be big waves, there could be rain coming down, there could be all this noise on top of the water. And then we could just drop under the water, and then the noise quiets down almost completely. The sensations that we have in our body settle in, and there's a different level of connection to our experience in that moment. So when he made the statement, you can rest in it, that's what I felt. I felt this ease come over my body, even as I just read the words. I didn't even hear them. They were just written words. As I read those words, my body relaxed. So as we're moving through our lives and as we're doing this work that we're doing in this particular foundations course, and we're doing our work of speaking, coaching, training, whatever that looks like to you, I want you to notice when you don't feel like you are resting. Now, that doesn't mean not moving. You can move with a peaceful sensation of rest. There's flow. It feels easy energetically. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of resistance at a deeper level. So you can stay in motion and be grounded and connected at the same time. And when you notice yourself feeling disconnected, you notice yourself playing up here in the realm of conflict, then the answer is going to be settle in. It's going to be go into yourself. It's going to be rest your mind and recharge your heart. So if you imagine these two different levels, it's like different planes that we play in. The levels down here, my phone is off, but apparently when it's connected to Bluetooth speaker, it still rings. The energy playing up here is way different than the energy playing down here. And one of the best things we can do on this journey of personal development is to recognize the differences. Now, there are similar concepts, such as conflict. You know, I even put conflict way up here. There could be conflict felt down here, but if you really listen in, it's a different experience of conflict. Somebody really wants to get a hold of me. Sorry, let me put my phone on airplane mode so nobody can disrupt us now. So things like conflict, things like fear, resistance, connectedness, all of those have experiences in both planes. We need to know ourselves enough and hear our voice enough and know the difference between our head speaking and our heart speaking, and know the difference between conflict created from the intellect and conflict created from the intuition. We need to know the difference between our soul's voice and our logical voice. But a lot of times they sound the same. A lot of times in the transcript, they look identical. But if we really pay attention, we can tell the difference. So resting in it is an experience that we can feel in our bodies. And the more that we can give ourselves the experience of feeling that sensation in our body coming from a much deeper level, and then take action, we're going to do everything so much more fluid and so much more effective and so much more proficient than the way that we play at this higher intellectual level. And then I think the other thought that I had as I read those words is we can look back on our life, because he said something like a life well lived. So we can look back on our life and we can rest in how we did this, right? Because this, you know, this is all going to end. And for a lot of us, maybe most of us, this will end sooner than we wished it was going to end. But at some point, we're going to look back and we're going to assess how we did this thing. we did this thing called life. And I think a lot of people aren't going to like that answer. Now, we have given ourselves the curse of awareness in personal development. We've given ourselves the curse of knowing what's possible. And it's a curse because it brings up these emotions that most people don't want to feel. But much bigger than this curse is a blessing of sacred experience that most people also will never have, because they won't really truly dive into themselves. They won't truly dive into what I believe is the sacred human experience. So a lot of times I'll think, how will I look at this moment right now from the future? Because we can all look back into the future, or into the past rather, of our timeline, and see the lessons, or we can see gratitude. I'm really glad that happened to me. I'm really glad I said yes to that. I'm really glad I said no to that. I understand now that even though that wasn't enjoyable for me, I get that it's what I needed. So we can always look back into our timeline and see the lessons and see the necessity. It's very difficult to look forward and see it, or to look in the current moment and see it. So sometimes we just have to put ourselves into the future and say, what if we were looking back in the current moment from the future perspective? And what if we knew that that everything we're experiencing right now, we chose it on some level, even at a level that we don't currently comprehend? We don't need to know why we chose it. We just need to know that we did choose it to change the experience that we're having right now. So what I really hope for each and every one of us is that we do have the ability to look back on our life and say, I'm glad I did, or remember when, rather than what if. Now, if you look back on your past, as I do oftentimes with certain memories, and when I'm in certain states, look back on the past with nothing but guilt and shame and regret. If you look back on the past and you experience that, then that's more leverage to not do that 2 years from now or a year from now. If you don't like the way that feels, then quit doing the things, quit following the recipe that has created that experience for you. That recipe needs to change so that you don't continue to look back into your past perpetually, continue to walk backwards through your journey of life, and constantly just look in the past with nothing but regret. So if you have that experience, that doesn't mean that you're a loser. That doesn't mean that there's no hope for you. That just means that you don't like looking back with the current level of judgment that you have, but you've got to be determined to change it if you don't like it. Otherwise, just get used to liking it. And that's the personal journey that's so much bigger than the strategies.
Now, if you like this video, take a look at that one where I totally bare my soul in a 3-minute reflection of what it's really like for me to be a motivational speaker and coach. Here's what's also true. These are the moments that for some reason I crave deep down, because they cause me to connect to my soul.